gang, we are in the Black Hills of South Dakota. I found what I'm going to say is a lost cemetery here in the Black Hills. Actually, we're at a place called Crook City. Not a city anymore. It used to be a boom camp. Well, actually, it was where General Crook had his army here camped. 1870s. I think it was 1876. There's a story here of 3 people that lost their lives very close to here. Right up here, the top of this rise is this lost cemetery, Crook Cemetery. It's on private property, and the landowner was good enough to give me permission to come here. We scouted it out yesterday. Yeah, I wanted to come here and show this to you. There are graves, and no one comes here. Almost no one. Definitely forgotten. So we're right near Deadwood here. You know, the Black Hills, this whole area, this area was for the Lakota, the Sioux Nation, and gold was discovered. And that's when the fortune seekers came, the gold rush. Federal government didn't do anything about it. They let them come in. So, key to this story, the Lakota would keep their vigil on the top of Bear Butte Mountain. They'd watch in dismay as all these settlers, so to speak, would come in here, flooding. I mean, Bear Butte was the beacon. A lot of those people that came were poor. They thought they were going to get rich. They came late. Everything, all the good spots were gone. Well, the good spots were all taken, and they would take any job they could. Many of the men turned to crime. Claim jumping, robbery, murder even. So Deadwood here, pretty dangerous place back in the day. And how this relates is there were three people who couldn't take it anymore. They were like, let's get out of here. It was the Wagnus brothers, and one of the brothers had the wife. We don't know their first names. Lost to the sands of time, very sadly. Maybe we can still find out, and of course no pictures. And they left Deadwood on a wagon, just the 3 of them. Kind of a dangerous move. They were warned. Even the local paper warned them. The Black Hills Champion newspaper. It was July 17th, 1877 that this would happen. Now 6 days later, on July 23rd, 1877, the article from that paper. And I'm going to read it as we look at some of the stones here, like this one. You can't really read anything. But it's a kind of a gruesome end, especially for the woman. Gosh, I wish we knew her name. But the headlines: another massacre. 2 men and 1 woman, the victims of the government's pet wards. When they say the government's pet wards, they're talking about Native Americans, Oglala, Sioux, all the bands. They were on the res. And it says the lady was barbarously mutilated. Some nice wrought iron. Interesting. It says about a month ago, the Champion, through its varied underground and other agencies, learned that a certain group from the Spotted Tail and Red Cloud agencies were about to go on the warpath to attack ranchmen and others in the foothills. We warned the people to be on their guard for an attack, but unfortunately our warning was partly unheeded. And it was only when poor Mr. McLaren had been murdered and several of the ranchers near Crook City had been attacked. It was only then that the people woke up to the actual condition of the affairs. So there is a name on this one. L.M. Seifert. Age 7 months, 3 days. Very sad. Hardly had the government train moved out of the country when the Indian fiends renewed their intuitive thirst for white scalps and white men's blood. And it says here, the most diabolical outrage that is yet to come to light was perpetrated yesterday about 3 p.m. at a point opposite Bear Butte, midway between Crook City and Belfourche and the Bismarck Road. A wagon drawn by a yoke of oxen and 2 men and a woman with their effects left Deadwood in the morning, destined for Bismarck. They camped on the Centennial Prairie Monday night and on yesterday morning passed through Crook City. An eyewitness who was cutting hay within a quarter mile of the massacre tells how it occurred. He watched the whole thing from a hiding spot up high. He says that hearing a succession of rapid shots fired a short distance from here where he was cutting hay, he got up on a high timber bluff and saw about 20 Indians engaged in a fight with the 2 men and woman who were occupying the ox train. He thinks there were about 50 shots exchanged when the firing had ceased, and he, fearing for his own safety, secreted himself in a hiding place and remained there until he heard the welcoming rattle of the Bismarck stage. He hailed to it, got on board, and rode to where the train of Mr. May was encamped. The names of the stage passengers are John McKelvey from St. Paul, John Davis of Cheyenne, and a Mr. Sproul. From one of the passengers on the stage, we gather the following facts as to the massacre. Stage driver, when rising the top of a knoll on the road, perceived a wagon about a quarter mile ahead, standing a short distance off the road. Driving up to it, all on board were horrified. On the scene, there were 3 dead bodies scattered about. The wagon was partially upset. Its contents were scattered all over the prairie. One of the oxen was already dead from bullet wounds. The other was dying. The body of the unfortunate woman was laying on the ground about 10 feet from the wagon. Her clothing had been rolled up to her armpits, leaving the limbs and body exposed. An ox yoke had been placed between her, we'll say her limbs, if you know what I mean, so the latter were spread out to their greatest extremity. The goad, which is a long stick with a sharp iron prong used for driving oxen, was driven up into her body. Both of her ears were cut off, and her head was scalped from ear to ear. The body for evidence of being otherwise brutally and fiendishly mutilated. Parts of the entrails protruded, and it seems as if she had received either bullets or other ones to her breast. The two men were both scalped and their ears cut off. In addition to the driver, there were only 3 passengers on the coach, and it became a serious question as they witnessed this, whether to turn the stage and go back to a train they had passed 2 miles back or proceed on their journey. Well, they decided to proceed. Another lost stone. Well, they proceeded, but what they did is they stayed inside and they put a bunch of rifles sticking out, so they figured they were being watched, so tried to dissuade any attack. After remaining at the scene of the massacre for just a few minutes, the driver put the whip on the horses, started for Crook City, which was the next stopping place here. At about a quarter mile from the massacre site, the hay cutter, before referred to, he emerged from his hiding place and he got on board that coach. 3 miles further, they came to Mr. Mayer's meal train of 20 wagons. They were at camp, and that's where they shared the horrible news. They had learned from them that half hour previously, 7 Indians had attacked and tried to drive off the stock, so they had a lively skirmish, and the Indians saw that they were outnumbered, so they left. They didn't pursue it. On learning the facts about the massacre, 8 heroic men belonging to the train volunteered to go forward to the scene of the massacre and bring in the 3 bodies, the murdered men and the woman. And they were brought into Crook City last night, it says, and will be probably buried today. It could be any one of these graves, guys, but most likely unmarked. A lot of names here, forgotten people. Not all forgotten. This clump over here, well, it used to be a clump. You can see there's a fence, family plot, it looks like, and huge trees have grown within. And I got a story on that from the landowner. He told me that relatives from California just a few years ago called him up, said they wanted to come here, get permission on his land. And between them and other people here, right here at this spot, they took the headstone away. Now we are right near the town of Whitewood. Whitewood's like almost connected to this. And they came and took the stone and put it at the Whitewood cemetery. I don't know, I don't agree with that, but that's what happened, that's what I was told. It's a beautiful place here. Very tranquil. Sadly, their names are lost forever, but those names are resting somewhere here. Rest in peace.